Everybody's looking at the Cubs right now and expecting a trade to be made. But what would that trade look like? We're going to talk about some guys to keep an eye on that the Cubs have, some prospects that they could give up. Cubs continue to play good baseball. And when I say that, who has the best run differential in baseball right now? And what are the Cubs' playoff odds, according to Fangraphs? We'll do all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. So like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell, all the things we ask first place Cubs fans to do. You third place Cardinals fans, hey, how do you feel being in third? What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel, and it is great to talk to you today. Thank you for being here, as always, as we talk Cubs on a daily basis. All right, let's get right into it. The Cubs are expected to make some big trades here, and we were kind of waiting. When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? We still don't know when it's going to happen, but there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of smoke, and eventually they're going to get something done. And we've talked about the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. We've talked about the Mariners. We've talked about the Twins. We've talked all of these different teams that could possibly, the Marlins, that could potentially trade the Cubs a starting pitcher, maybe a third baseman, maybe a closer, although I don't know if they need a closer anymore, but I'm sure they'll take one. And we'll see. And some of you guys have gotten in the comment section and you're like, this team needs more than one player to win a World Series. They're looking at 3 or 4, and I don't think I can sit here and argue with you. I think you strengthen the bench. I think you could use someone at third base that would scare opponents and really help the offense. Not to say that Shaw's not going to be that guy eventually, but I think right now he's still a rookie figuring it out. Then the rotation, when it's not Shota or Matthew Boyd, is inconsistent. Who could you add that would make that rotation better and consistent? So we're going to talk about those things constantly as we get to the trade deadline, and we expect the Cubs to be super active between now and the deadline to try to win a World Series. All right, so here's some guys to keep an eye on that I think the Cubs would potentially package in a deal to help fill those needs. And the first guy is a guy we saw in the major leagues this year, and that's Moises Ballesteros. On the good side, he's a left-handed batter with really soft hands, really, really soft wrists. And I mean that in a good way. Like, he is a tough out, and he can hit the ball to all fields. He's shown that he's got some power. 8 home runs, 43 knocked in, 327 batting average, has a great on-base percentage. Splits are awesome. And he got to the big leagues this year. He can hit, and he's going to hit, right? No matter what league he's in, he is going to hit. And we didn't really get to see a whole lot of him with the Cubs this year, but we will eventually, right? Or somewhere else. I think that a team would want him because he's a left-handed batter and he can rake. Now, his catching ability is questionable. Reese McGuire was the guy the Cubs went with when Miguel Amaya went on the IL, and Ballesteros is a much better hitter, but McGuire is a better defensive catcher, and that's the knock against Ballesteros. They don't think that he's ready to be a catcher in the big leagues. So he's working on that. Is he ever going to figure it out? It's a tough position. The problem is that if you don't put him at catcher, you got one other choice. That's DH. Maybe you could put him at first base, but he's too short to play first. He doesn't play anywhere else on the diamond. He's either going to be DH or catcher for the most part. And they're not enamored right now by his ability to get behind the plate. So that makes him expendable to me. And maybe he goes to a team that doesn't care. Maybe he goes to a team that's like, hey, guess what? We need somebody that just plays defense. And we'll have them. But we want somebody that can hit. That's a more valuable quantity. And I think the Cubs could get rid of Ballesteros and say, hey, look, we didn't have a position for him. And I think a team could pick him up and be like, we just need somebody to hit. Now, the second guy is Jack Neely. And we talked about Jack Neely a lot. Remember, the Cubs got Neely in that trade last year with the Yankees. And, he supposedly he's got a great slider, right? The guy's 25 years old, and, he pitched a handful of games last year, but he has not done well this year in the minor leagues. His numbers just aren't any good, right? He's also been injured a little bit. He's a guy that they feel like has a ton of potential, but an 0-2 record and a 6.91 ERA. Obviously the Yankees thought he was going to be their next closer because he's got that kind of stuff, or maybe late inning bullpen, but it just hasn't panned out. And maybe that's because of injuries. So teams probably have seen this guy. They'd be willing to take him. I don't know what his value is, but I think he's someone that the Cubs would part with. Talking about another pitcher that they could potentially part with, and this one might be a mistake, but it's Jordan Wicks. 1-3, 4.06 ERA, but Wicks has really come along over his last few starts. He's starting to look like the guy who was in the major leagues a few years ago. About the changeup, left-handed. When he's on, he's a really good pitcher. And he had some injuries, gained a little bit of weight, but he can pitch. And I'm sure there's teams that are looking at Wicks right now and going, hey, this guy, 6'3", 220, big league stuff all over him. Pitched in 2 games this year for the Cubs and had a 13.50 ERA, right? First year, made 7 starts, 4.41 ERA, had a 4-1 record. Remember that run in 23? Last year, 2-4, 5.48 ERA, so 6-6 in his big league career. I don't feel like we've really seen the best of Wicks yet, and I think that it's going to come. And I'm sure there's a team out there that would love a former first-round pick who is kind of getting past the learning stage and is someone that they can put in the rotation and potentially be someone that would be very consistent. I could see him being as high as a very good 3 or maybe a 2 and, as low as being a 5, but being a good 5. Like, I think that he's got the potential to be an excellent pitcher. I think teams are looking at him, but I think the Cubs would get rid of him. They're going to have to trade pitching if they get pitching. He's a guy that could easily be packaged and sent somewhere else. Kevin Alcántara turned some heads during spring training. He's an outfielder. Cubs got him from the Yankees, and I think it was in the Anthony Rizzo trade. 9 home runs, 42 knocked in, 264 average. He always reminded me of Dave Winfield. Big, long guy. But for a long-armed guy, he can hit the inside pitches. I've always liked some of the intangibles that Alcántara brings to the table. So he can be a very, very good competitor. He likes to win. He's aggressive at the plate. And I think that eventually at 6'6", 190 pounds, that he's going to be someone that will mature into a pretty good player. I thought he was just a little immature coming out of Tennessee, going to Iowa last year. But you know what? He got to the big leagues and ended up going 1 for 10 last year in the major leagues and then had a good spring training. So far this year, 346 on base percentage with the 9 home runs and the 42 batted in, but 30 walks, 82 strikeouts. He's going to strike out a lot, but you know what? You get the walks in there, that kind of cuts down on that. He plays center field. I think he's a corner outfielder. I've never liked watching him go back on balls. I mean, when you see guys like Pete Crow Armstrong, there's just no comparison on the balls that are on the warning track near the wall. I think he could be a really good corner outfielder, but he plays a lot of center. I think the Cubs would give him up. I don't think there's a spot on the roster for him. When he's out of options, I just don't think that they're going to have a place for him. A lot can change between now and then, but he's a guy you throw in a deal and let somebody else figure out where he's going to play. He could look. This guy, the guy has talent. I mean, he could really be an an excellent player, but he could also be a guy who washes out. I don't think that his future is written yet, but I've seen this guy look terrible. I've seen him look really great. So it's a combination of the two things, but we'll see what happens. He's going to be on a big league roster eventually, and we'll see how that goes. We're watching Alexander Canario right now, and we figured he'd be better than that, and he was struggling. We saw him playing with the Pirates, so I wonder how Alcántara's career is going to go. But I think he's an easy guy to put in a trade for the Cubs, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not sent off somewhere in one of these deals. Now, the last guy I'm going to talk about, and I've been bringing this guy's name up a lot, he's all of a sudden now one of the highest risers as far as the prospect guides go. They've got him in the top 10 now, coming in at number 8, Cubs best prospects, and that's right-hander Jaxon Wiggins. Wiggins is part of the futures game now. He is 3-2 with a 2.09 ERA between A ball and Double A. I think the Cubs are being very patient right now as they try to work deals out, not to throw them a whole lot, because I think that's just what you do. When you feel like you're going to trade somebody, and I think they're going to trade this guy, and I think you want to be very, very, very delicate with what they do. And if I'm another team, this is a guy I want. 4 pitches, throws upwards of 100 miles an hour, sits upper 90s. Good fastball, getting better command, rebounding from his last Tommy John surgery. There's just something about the guy when he's on the hill. Like, there's a little bit of an intimidation factor with him, pretty high on him, and think that he's someone that could, bring the Cubs the starting pitcher that they need. And I've said this before too, if the Cubs want to put him in the back end of the bullpen at the big league level, I think today he could be effective doing that, even though he's been a starter this season in the minor leagues. But, the guy just has that look, 6'6", 225, still a young guy, tons of strikeouts, 74 strikeouts in 60 innings. They like that in the big leagues. How about only 33 hits in 60 innings? That's got to be impressive. He's walked 27. But he's a flamethrower, and he's getting more accurate every time out. And he's someone to keep an eye on. And this was after he was a very good college pitcher at Arkansas. So we'll see. A second-round pick by the Cubs. I think he's a guy that's going somewhere in one of these deals when they make them. I think the teams are going to want him, and I think that the Cubs know that they're going to have to give up pitching to get pitching. Now, I want to talk about the Cubs, another great win. I think all wins are great wins. I love all wins. They're fun. And they beat they beat the Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Guardians. The Indians are the team they beat in the World Series. Now they're the Guardians, whatever. But they beat them. They got offense. They got timely hitting. And then Daniel Palencia closed the door on them. So it was a 3-run win for the Cubs, 5-2. Anyway, when you look across baseball, the Cubs are plus 107 right now in run differential. Hey, guess what? That's the best in baseball. And I think that matters. I get it. The Cubs are 2.5 games up on Milwaukee, and they're 4 up on the Cardinals and 6 up on the Reds. Every team in the division except the Pirates are over 500. I bring that up a lot. But every team in the division except the Pirates are plus in the run differential department. But Cubs at 107 are the best in baseball. The Brewers are plus 56. The Cardinals are plus 37. And the Reds are plus 33. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And besides the NL Central, only the NL West and the AL East can say that. But in the rest of those divisions, one of the teams is like in the single digits. How about 4 teams that are 30 plus in the run differential department in the same division? And that's really impressive, which tells me that the NL Central is the best division in baseball. And the Cubs are leading that division right now. The Dodgers are only plus 90, and the Yankees are plus 105. So they're the only one that's close to the Cubs in that department, but still worth talking about. I thought that was pretty cool. Finally, I want to talk about the Cubs playoff odds. Look, we're entering the month of July, right? July the 2nd. Here we are. Boom. Throw it to the stage. Cubs right now have, here on July the 2nd, an 87.7 chance to make the playoffs. Got to love that. 24% wild card and 63.7% to win the division and a 5.4% chance to win the World Series. Look at the Dodgers, though, at 23.5% chance to win the World Series, to repeat as champs. So, we'll see if the Cubs look 50 and 35 on the year. They're projected to win 90 games. And, and we'll see. I mean, I think it's exciting when you have good playoff odds because it matters. I remember the year the Cubs won the World Series, it was 16+%, that they would win, even more than that. And they ended up winning. The teams with the best odds normally do win. So they're going to try to make some trades to increase their odds to win it all. So we'll see if that helps. But anyway, all good news for the Cubs. They will do it again today, and another great game scheduled for the friendly confines. More night baseball, and as the Cubs take on Cleveland at 7 o'clock, you know that you get Shota Imanaga on the mound, 4-2 record, 2.54 ERA. So I like having him and Boyd back-to-back. That's really been the saving grace for the Cubs starting rotation that has struggled here a little bit lately. Guys, get in the comments section. Tell me what you think. Thank you for being here. As always, love talking Cubs baseball with you on a daily basis. We will do it again tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have more great stuff to talk about. But thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell, comment, all those things I ask you to do every day. But really appreciate you as we try to get to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Go Cubs.